Hey guys, welcome to Learn English with Listening. Today I will give you your study plan to go from intermediate to advanced in English. As a language learner who's been learning English for a number of years now, I understand that it's really hard to improve your language starting with upper intermediate to advanced, because those improvements are very nuanced and very detailed. Let me give you an example. When you just start learning a language, you start with basic phrases, and it takes you a few weeks. Then, you can actually interact in the language. You've learned 100 words, and it seems like a little progress. But what if you're intermediate, and you already know, say, 1,000 words in English? Adding 50 more words doesn't seem like a huge improvement. This is where your motivation starts disappearing because we constantly need this dopamine. We constantly need to see our results to be happy with ourselves and continue studying, and I've been there so many times. So, today, we're going to go through every section of the language. We're going to talk about reading. We're going to talk about vocabulary, grammar, and I will give you a list of things that you need to know in order to become advanced. I've created this list together with a teacher from California. Hi, Leah. Thank you so much for helping me. But before we start, please like this video and subscribe to this channel if you're not yet subscribed. I'm going to add a lot of commentary from myself because, oh my God, I just took another TOEFL test. We're waiting for the final result, but despite living in the US for 10 years, I still think that TOEFL is a very intense test. Now, without further ado, we're going to transition to your vocabulary. When I say that it gets harder and harder to get to the next level when you're closer to the top, I am not making this up. Let's look at the table that shows the number of learning hours you need to achieve each level from the level below. So, for example, if you're at B1 now, you will need at least 180 hours to become B2. But if you're at C1 level and you want to become C2, almost a native speaker, you need at least 300 hours. And at this level, we're talking accent, we're talking pronunciation of the most advanced words. If we convert it into weeks, you need at least 40 weeks to get from B1 to B2, but you need at least 75 weeks to go from C1 to C2. And this is where I tell you, brace yourself, because yes, it's going to get harder. At my level, for example, C1 and C2, I am working with academic vocabulary. I'm working with idioms that are not used in our everyday lives. I'm working with those tiny details, and there are so many of those. Okay, now that you understand that this transition is going to require some work, you're ready. Now let's talk about things that you actually need to become advanced. The first aspect that we're going to talk about is reading. When it comes to reading, there are several aspects that you need to be able to understand. Text from many genres, dealing with a wide range of subjects. It doesn't matter if you understand the subjects or not. So, for example, I just took the TOEFL test, and in the reading part, I had several texts. One text was about mammals in the sea and the ocean, the second text was about economics, and the third text was also related to science. There were some terms that I did not know beforehand, and there were so many nuances and details. But if you want to score the highest grade on tests like TOEFL, IELTS, and other English language tests, you need to be able to understand texts about anything. Very complicated academic text. So, I'm adding academic vocabulary here. Now, there are several ways to improve your reading, but obviously, you need to read a lot. And this is the time for you to start switching to more advanced resources. So, look at texts from magazines like Time, National Geographic, The Economist, Vogue, Self, Men's Health, The New Yorker, and The Guardian. Those articles are advanced, and they're going to be great for your reading practice. Number 2, listening. Oh my goodness, because I just took TOEFL, I'm going to give you a lot of examples from an advanced English language test. When it comes to listening, you need to be able to understand sarcastic sentences. You need to be able to understand idioms. You need to be able to understand which information actually matters and what information was secondary. You need to learn how to pay attention to the right things and also be able to understand accents, idioms, and dialects. That is all part of advanced listening. So, there we go. Accents again. Advanced vocabulary. I would write priorities, but basically, understand what's important, what's not. And we're going to talk about grammar later in this video, but people love to use conditionals, and you need to understand what they actually mean. So, how do you practice listening? Through podcasts. I wish they existed 20 years ago when I was actively learning English because podcasts give us such a great variety of accents and views. I like Lex Friedman's podcast. I like Andrew Huberman's podcast. And of course, movies and TV shows would definitely help you with listening. Emily in Paris. This TV show is kind of easier to understand, but I would highly recommend it anyways. They have such beautiful vocabulary there. They use a lot of idioms. They use a lot of comparisons. And their speech is strikingly beautiful in that TV show, at least for me. The Hunger Games, The Little Things, Big Little Lies. If you're interested in a place where I live, Big Little Lies was filmed very close to the Bay Area, The Social Network, Ballers, and some of the other shows. Now, the third aspect that you need to be working on is, of course, writing. Now here, let's look at what TOEFL test makers actually want you to be able to do. If you want to qualify for the C1 level, produce clear, well-developed, and well-organized text. That means that every thought has its own paragraph. That means you have an introduction, that means you have a conclusion, and that means you use a lot of linking words like, in my opinion, however. Furthermore, the speaker stated that, the speaker mentioned that. So, I am writing here well-structured texts that include paragraphs, linking words, and of course, the use of advanced vocabulary, meaning idioms, C1 level words and phrases. Also, when you're writing a text and you want to qualify for C1, you need to select important information from multiple sources, integrated and presented coherently and clearly in writing, with only occasional minor imprecision in the summary of the source information. What they basically mean is that, yes, you can summarize with your own words, but you have to be attentive to detail. You have to be very clear with what you're writing. By the way, when it comes to tests, they actually allow you to make minor mistakes. So, if you're typing, if it's a typo, or maybe you didn't know how to spell the word correctly, that's fine. But of course, don't make too many mistakes. I'm just saying that, because I want you to relax and stop trying to be perfect. Now, how can you challenge yourself with advanced writing? Something I can recommend is writing a review. As a creator, sometimes I go to places like hotels, and they ask me, as part of our collaboration, to leave a review. And this is where I have to start with my general thoughts. Overall, this experience has been one of the best so far, and there are several reasons. And then different paragraphs. Number 1, I really enjoyed the view from my room. Number 2, the service was amazing. Number 3, I'm simplifying this for you, but this basically shows the structure. So, try writing a review on a platform like Yelp or Google Reviews. That's going to help you. That's going to help you practice that advanced writing. And of course, if you have any tests coming up, the best way to practice, the best way to get ready for the test, is to go and take the mock test and see what's going on. Another way to practice all of your skills, especially listening, is to take an English language course. The course that we've developed at LinguaTrip is called From Intermediate to Advanced, and when our teachers were working on it, they were paying extra attention to this plateau effect when you're already intermediate, but you can't see any growth. Because the teachers in that course are native speakers or non-native speakers whose accents are almost perfect, you will get exposure to a variety of teachers, thus practicing your listening. That course includes 40 lessons on the most important English topics. There are some of my classes, mostly motivating and talking about my own experience and life hacks that can help you improve your language learning journey. There is, of course, Venia, our accredited teacher from Los Angeles. And there is Angela, who's a native speaker who's been teaching English for a while now. She's also an expert in methodology and creates programs for English language programs worldwide. We have leveled tests before and after the course, so you can see your progress. And of course, we try to make your learning process as interesting and as entertaining as possible. Over 10,000 students have already taken courses with LinguaTrip, and I hope you join them as well. Also, if you decide to take this course with a group, the next group starts on April 12th. If you're watching this video after April 12th, check the link down below for the next start date. So basically, if you're taking it together with a group, we're going to match you with people from all over the world so you can practice together. The link will be down below. I will be very excited if you take that course to speed up your way to the advanced level in English. Now, let's move on and talk about speaking. Oh, this one is the most challenging, honestly, for me, because especially when you take a test or when you interact with a native speaker for the first time, I remember I was shaking when I was talking to a native speaker just because I thought they were judging me. They think I'm dumb all the time. It kind of never goes away. It stays with you, this feeling that you're not a native speaker. Yesterday, I was at a dinner. Almost everyone there was either a native speaker or moved to the U.S. when they were kids and graduated from American schools. And, sometimes there are things that they discuss that I don't understand just because I'm not part of that culture. I only immigrated when I was 25. I was basically born and raised in a different country. But at the same time, I realize how inclusive American society is, and if you're doing something interesting, people are willing to interact with you. So, this fear never goes away, but it gets better. So, when it comes to speaking, you guys are actually lucky. You have AI these days, and you can totally talk with AI. Well, for example, the paid version of ChatGPT allows you to interact with it in English. There are other websites, like Speeches or speakandimprov.com, that you can use to practice English. And the other thing, as a non-native speaker, try incorporating new words as soon as you can. You've learned something, like "it happens to me all the time." I learned something, and I'm like, okay, great word, and I forget about it. If you start incorporating those words into your speech as soon as possible, there's more probability you'll actually remember and use those words. Now, let's talk about my favorite. People are always like, Liba, but how many words do I need to know to be advanced in English? Now, there you go. The Common European Framework of Reference states that B1 requires 2,000 to 3,000 words. At the advanced level, you need 5,000 to 6,000 words. How does that sound? Sounds overwhelming, right? I agree. There is nothing you can really do except just learn those words. So, there is actually a test that you can take. If you go to Lexor.com, they have a test for 2,000, 3,000, and 5,000 levels. Of course, they're not going to ask you all of those words, but they took some of the brightest examples from the category, and you're going to be able to test yourself. They also have a university word list, and they have a 10,000 word level list. Just go ahead, take that test, and see how you feel. Of course, it's an estimate. Of course, it's not 100% accurate, but I feel like it's a cool place to start. They have all kinds of different tests on their website. I like it a lot. Go to Lexor.com and check them out. Now, what are the other traits of advanced English language students? Vocabulary. Advanced word combinations like a surge of anger, heavy rain, volcanic eruption, advanced synonyms. Let's look at the example. I think it was my second year in uni when I finally learned how to be a good student. I think it was in my second year in uni when I finally got the hang of being a student. Oh, that's a nice expression. Cambridge Dictionary, British, by the way, says that that's a C1 phrase. Or instead of saying, "Do you still want to play tennis tonight?" you can say, "Are we still on for tonight?" Now, those words and phrases are the advanced level. In our intermediate to advanced course, we pay a lot of attention to such words and phrases. Okay, now let's talk about grammar. I know, some people are like, but Liba, can I just learn 3 tenses? That's it? When you come to the US, people use all kinds of tenses, all kinds of structures, and if you don't understand their meaning, sometimes you can get confused. And I'm sorry, the lighting is kind of weird today. It is really windy, so clouds come and go, and sometimes the sun is shining brightly in my studio, but then the next second, it's gone. It's all great, but yeah, the reality of living in California. Of course, when you are an advanced English language learner, you know all the 12 tenses. We're not going to talk about that, but we're going to talk about those nuanced details, like inversion. You need to understand how to use it and what it means. Here comes the trouble. Inversion in word order is used to highlight our emotions. The action comes first, and who or what does the action come second? Not only did Sheldon save my life, he didn't rat me out to the landlord or the police. Homeland Security conditionals. Not only your regular conditionals, but also mixed conditionals. I remember when we were learning that at school, I was so tired of conditionals. And then they say, oh, but we just learned all the rules. Sometimes they do not apply or apply in a different way when it comes to mixed conditions. I'm like, come on, why so complicated? When you were at the intermediate level, you'd learned 0, first, second, and third conditionals. But at the advanced level, you have to be familiar with mixed conditionals. Let me show you an example. You create sentences with a past condition and a present or future result, or the other way around. Let's look at type 1, present results of a past action. If I had worked harder at school, I would have a better job now. So the structure is if plus past perfect, and in the second sentence, we have would plus infinitive. Type 2, past result of a present condition. Here is an example from the movie. Oh my God, I just met that actor a couple of months ago. He was presenting a book here in the Bay Area. I read it on a cruise, and if I wasn't afraid it was an environmental hazard, I would have tossed it overboard. The structure is if plus past simple, would have, plus past participle. And of course, if this sounds confusing, we talk about this more in the course. Now, there are a couple more things that I wanted to talk about before we wrap up. I know your head might be exploding, but it's important, so I would add them as bonuses. Here, bonus number 1 is called spoken grammar. What does that mean? I know we've been learning all of the grammar structures, but sometimes you just have to forget about them to sound like a native. Instead of saying, do you want some coffee? You say, want a coffee, right? Or instead of saying, are you ready yet? You can just say, ready yet? At an advanced level, you need to understand. You don't have to speak like that, but you need to understand that people use those phrases and they omit grammatical structures that we're used to as language learners. And yes, if you want to sound more native, then start using them as well. Another bonus is cleft sentences. An example of a cleft sentence is, what I really like is chocolate. They're all about giving extra emphasis on something that you want to highlight in the sentence. Let's look at another example. Sharon's car got broken into yesterday, didn't it? No, it was Nina's car that got broken into. So we're highlighting whose car was broken into. Okay, guys, I feel like there's too much for a YouTube video. I'm going to stop right here. Of course, this is not the whole list of things you need to know in order to become advanced, but this is a general list of things. And of course, the language is very nuanced. There are a lot of things that you're going to learn, but all I want you to understand is that every level gets more and more complicated. In a nutshell, what you need to start doing is immerse yourself into the language as much as possible by watching shows, reading extensively, listening to authentic English, writing emails, reviews, reports, whatever. Practice speaking and receiving feedback on your speech. Expand vocabulary and master those grammar nuances. Thank you guys so much for watching this video up to the very end. I am very happy to see you as part of this community. Please subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you very soon in my next videos. Bye.